Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you kindly for stopping by. I do appreciate it. I went to the Qater gig at the Villa Rosa Kempinski last night, celebrating the National Day, and I got there early and I took a photograph, and it was rather grand, as you'd expect. And on that note, I'll put up a photograph of Doha from the sky, taken 74 days ago. Frank's presentation is being uploaded. We're finishing the editing of his Mindspeak session that will be up later on today. I attended the launch of CAM House. CAM stands for the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, by the president yesterday, and I actually made a small presentation beforehand. I spoke after Bill Russo of McKinsey about the macroeconomic backdrop. And certainly was an interesting event. The president was in a very good mood. I put up a photograph of him having a chuckle with Pradeep Panrana, who's the CAM chairman. What I noticed was how engaged he was with the choir. And I tweeted, he's got his groove back, going by how much he's enjoying the choir. And the next moment he'd got up, and the whole place was on its feet as he joined the dance. Many important points came out of it. The one I liked best was made by Pradeep, Your Excellency, we need policy stability. And I think that is the key to unlocking the opportunity. Home thoughts start with a report in PBS saying that the Big Bang may have created a mirror universe where time runs backwards. Here's the twist: the expansion of the simulated Big Bang didn't just happen in one direction, but two. The simple Big Bang they modeled produced two universes, one a mirror of the other. In one universe, time appears to run forwards, in the other, time runs backwards, at least from our perspective. I return to William S. Burroughs, Hustlers of the World. There is one mark you cannot beat, the mark inside. Every man has inside himself a parasitic being who is acting not at all to his advantage. And then desperation is the raw material of drastic change. Only those who can leave behind everything they have ever believed in can hope to escape. Put up a photograph of William Burroughs. I remember reading his books as a teenager, but the experience he was describing was so far away from mine at that time. And still, but nevertheless, very powerful writing. Political reflections: global stock markets tumbled as Antonis Samaras called a snap election. The Athens Stock Exchange dropped 13%. Investors registered their fears as the yield on 10-year debt jumped to 7.86%. Markets fear that the high-stakes gamble by Antonis Samaras on Monday night could trigger early elections and pave the way to the stridently anti-austerity Syriza party assuming power. Voting for a new head of state will begin next week. So that brought in a lot of uncertainty, and probably spiked gold big time as well. Plus, I think there were lots of shorts in there, so they all got squeezed as well. We can't not express our concern over what our German colleagues are doing. This was the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, signaling that Moscow would not be lectured to and its patience was running out. Germany has traditionally played a very constructive role regarding EU ties with Russia and the West as a whole with Russia. If Germany would decide to move to issuing orders, then Europe wouldn't win from that, and neither would Germany. Clearly unhappy with Angela Merkel as their interlocutor. Interesting piece and counterpunch: Washington's Frozen War against Russia by a lady called Diana Johnstone. For over a year, the US has played out a scenario designed to 1. Reassert US control over Europe by blocking EU trade with Russia, 2. Bankrupt Russia, and 3. Get rid of Vladimir Putin and replace him with an American puppet. It all began at the important high-level international meeting on Ukraine's future held in Yalta in September 2013, where a major topic was the shale gas revolution, which the United States hoped to use to weaken Russia. Washington hoped to use its fracking techniques to provide substitute sources for natural gas, driving Russia out of the market. This amounts to selling Europe a pig in a poke. But this trick could not be accomplished by relying on the sacrosanct market, since fracking is more costly than Russian gas extraction. A major crisis was necessary in order to distort the market by political pressures. By the February 22nd coup d'etat, engineered by Victoria Nuland, the US effectively took control of Ukraine, putting in power its agent Yats, Arseny Yatsenyuk, who favors joining NATO. This direct threat to Russia's naval base in Crimea led to the referendum, which peacefully returned the historically Russian peninsula to Russia. But the US-led chorus condemned the orderly return of Crimea as Russian military aggression. This defensive move is trumpeted by NATO as proof of Putin's intention to invade Russia's European neighbors for no reason at all. Going back to those points, which I think are correct, for over a year, the United States has played out a scenario designed to reassert US control over Europe by blocking EU trade with Russia, to bankrupt Russia, and 3, get rid of Putin. And I've spoken about this when I wrote that piece about the US emerges as the new price setter for the oil market. And I said President Obama, while getting creamed in the midterms, has been a very subtle, skilled, and hard-nosed exponent of currency and now oil warfare. This plan to undercut oil was exquisitely constructed and executed. I called it a very 21st century shock and awe, and a bullet has not even been fired. Putin apparently will arrive in Delhi on Wednesday night, and that should be interesting to watch how Putin and Modi reach out to each other. Obviously, the big story has been the torture report. And what I found interesting out of a number of things I read was that the commander of Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, Janis Karpinski, estimates that 90% of detainees in the prison were innocent. According to Bloomberg, CIA detainees dragged naked down corridors, force-fed rectally. A CIA-led interrogation program kept suspects in cold cells, doused them with refrigerated water, force-fed some rectally, according to graphic details revealed today in a report by Senate Democrats. At least one detainee died in an unheated cell, another tried to chew his arm and committed other acts of self-mutilation. Others hallucinated, suffered from paranoia, and exhibited other signs of psychosis. A team from the US Bureau of Prisons inspected one of the secret detention facilities, saying there had never been in a facility where individuals are so sensory deprived, according to a December 2002 email. There is nothing like this in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. In the fall of 2002, a detainee died of hypothermia while shackled to a concrete floor. Another detainee was held for 17 days in the dark without anybody knowing he was there. At least 26 didn't meet the standards for being held, according to the report. Abu Zubaydah, who was captured in 2002, was initially cooperative with interrogators. He identified Khalid Sheikh Mohammed as the planner of the September 11 attacks, for example. As he recovered from wounds suffered in his capture, however, the interrogation techniques grew harsher. Officials believed he was withholding information about pending attacks. Zubaydah was shackled naked during interrogations and was forced to stay awake, He spent 47 days in isolation without being asked any questions. After that, he was subjected to waterboarding, which prompted him to vomit and caused his body to convulse in involuntary spasms. He spent a total of 11 days and 2 hours in a box the size of a coffin, and 29 hours in a box that was even smaller, at 21 inches wide, 2.5 feet deep, and 2.5 feet high. Daily cables from the site where he was interrogated said Zubaydah frequently cried, begged, pleaded, and whimpered. The CIA later concluded Zubaydah didn't know about any impending attacks. Majid Khan, who the CIA thought had knowledge of a plan to attack gas stations, was one of at least 5 detainees subjected to rectal feeding. He was fed a pureed mix of hummus, pasta with sauce, nuts, and raisins. What I can't get out of my mind is, a lot of this sort of very psychological torture that was deployed, I think, exhibited something disturbed more about the torturer than the tortured. And really, I think, it is an appalling stain. And I find myself agreeing with Senator John McCain, which doesn't happen very often. He tweeted about how this was really a stain on the US conscience, and I think it is, and I don't know whether any real information was picked up in this manner. Euro 123.87 holding to levels post the rebound. Dollar index 89.63. It's the yen that's moved 118.96. And you will recall the dollar yen was at a 7-year high of 121.86 on Monday. Swissy 0.9702, pound 156.80, Aussie 8314, that's bounced from 8224, which was the lowest since June 2010. India rupee 61.925, South Korean 111.0240, Rial 259.34, the Egyptian pound 714.56. South African rand is better at 11.43.59. Dollar index, I think you could buy pullbacks. This might well be one. The Fed next meets on December the 16th and 17th. The expectation is that policymakers will increase their benchmark interest rate from the current range of 0 to 0.25% in about 8 months. That's according to Morgan Stanley. However, I think we're just one big employment number away from them having to increase rates much more quickly. And therefore, I take you back to the 29th of September when I said the point I'm making is that the dollar has just started getting going. There will be blood in the water. There is a small window who want to be the sharks. I'll put up an image of a shark that I took in the Dubai Mall. Euro dollar 123.87. You can see from the chart we had a nice rebound. My target remains 1 in 2015 parity. Dollar yen, I'll put up a 3-month chart, 118.96 last, and you can see it's been a really dynamic and big move that's happened. Crude oil $63.02 last time I checked, and as I said on December the 1st, the meeting in Vienna, this was the OPEC meeting, merely confirmed that the US has wrestled control of the oil markets. President Obama, while getting creamed in the midterms, has been a subtle, skilled, hard-nosed exponent of currency and now oil warfare. This plan to undercut oil was exquisitely constructed and executed. And I think the oil price collapse marks a major inflection point, and that the global consumer is back. I'll put up a 6-month chart as well. And just take you back to the 13th of October when I said, in fact, the oil market has always been very high beta and exhibits magnified price reactions to the demand and supply dynamic. Where markets are net short, price setting can be determined by the last buyer who is paying up in a net supply deficit scenario, and that's why you see those big price spikes around futures expiring. However, this is a binary thing. In a situation where there is a net surplus, the price setter can be those last sales transacted at deep discounts, and that's essentially what's been happening. I said the conditions are optimal for a complete washout. This was in October. As far as $50 a barrel, markets overshoot. Crude oil does it big time, and every model needs to consider such a price outcome. And I take you back to comments by Thomas Donilon in 2011, who said, America's new energy posture allows us to engage from a position of greater strength. Increasing US energy supplies act as a cushion that helps reduce our vulnerability to global supply disruptions and price shocks. It also affords us a stronger hand in pursuing and implementing our international security goals. Bank of America sees $50 oil as OPEC dies. The OPEC oil cartel no longer exists in any meaningful sense. That's correct, that's what I said. Revolutionary changes sweeping the world's energy industry will drive down the price of LNG, creating a multi-year glut and much cheaper source of gas for Europe. Francisco Blanche, the bank's commodity chief, said OPEC is effectively dissolved after it failed to stabilize prices at its last meeting. The consequences are profound and long-lasting. Bank of America say that the oil price crash is worth $1 trillion of stimulus for the global economy, equal to a $730 billion tax cut in 2015. They're also saying the free market will now set the global cost of oil, leading to a new era of wild price swings and disorderly trading that benefits only the Middle Eastern petro-states with deepest pockets such as Saudi Arabia. If so, the weaker peripheral members such as Venezuela and Nigeria are being thrown to the wolves. And I agree with that. Gold, very big rally. Now trading just above 1230. Shorts have been squeezed. The Greek news led to some short covering. And then, interestingly, whole milk powder prices have tumbled 56% in the past 12 months. That's a very, very dramatic move. I like this image from the Wall Street Journal. Eye candy, dangly, incandescent earrings beg to be taken out on the town. Verdura citrine and Savorite garnet earrings. I actually met the gentleman who runs the Savorite mine, which has been the source of enormous conflict not too long ago, selling to Tiffany's, I think. Beijing taps brakes and markets drop. China notched its biggest market loss in 5 years after a surprise move to rein in lending. The benchmark Shanghai Composite Index slumped 5.4% on Tuesday to record its biggest fall since 2009 after a regulator banned investors from using low-grade corporate debt as collateral to borrow cash. The bond market fell first, sending yields higher before the turmoil spread to the yuan, which recorded its biggest two-day tumble ever against the dollar. Coming to Africa, Zimbabwe's Mugabe has fired one of his deputies and is to name a new cabinet. He fired 7 ministers as well. Fired his long-time deputy Joyce Mujuru and several of our allies, 2 government sources said on Tuesday. The move came days after Mugabe publicly rebuked the woman who was seen just months ago as his most likely successor, denouncing her before party loyalists as a leader of a treacherous cabal bent on removing him from office. Sources who declined to be named because they're not authorized to speak to the media said Mujuru and several ministers aligned to her received dismissal letters on Monday night. And it's interesting when you consider that I think it sort of repositions Mnangagwa, but clearly, I mean, I think Grace is very ambitious as well, but I don't think it's a tenable situation to have President Bob Mugabe replaced by President Grace Mugabe, and I think that would be one to do good in double quick time. South African oil share fell dramatically yesterday, down 2.08%. It's only up 4.9723% this year and is now below 49,000. I'll put up a photograph of the Johannesburg sunset taken 249 days ago. Etihad has identified South African Airways as its latest investment target, 4 months after sealing a multi-billion-dollar investment in Alitalia. This was something I was trying to persuade Kenya Airways about. Dollar Rand, 11.4330. My target is 12. Egyptian pound, steady at 7.1445, but obviously the black market is around the 7.65 level. Egyptian stock market fell 1% yesterday. It's up 39.811% year to date. Nigeria fell to a fresh 22-month low. It's down 20.3174% year to date. Currency fell to 183.55, lowest on a closing basis since December the 1st. And I agree with this comment. In this market, everything is correlated to the oil price. Some of the bearish sentiment will continue into next year, at least until after the elections are over. On November the 19th, I predicted that the currency heads to 200 and that the central bank does not have firepower. And on the 10th of November, I said, the markets in Nigeria have been waggadoogood. I wrote a piece, Nigeria in the Eye of the Storm, on the 24th of November, when I said I can hear the echo of folks asking what went wrong. It was only earlier this year that Nigeria's economy was calculated to have surpassed South Africa's as the largest on the continent, after Nigeria's GDP was rebased to $488 billion for 2013, compared to the World Bank's 2012 GDP figures of $384.3 billion for South Africa. So the big game changer for Nigeria has been the free fall in the price of crude oil. And I also said Nigeria is collateral damage in a red-hot crude oil and geopolitical war, where the US and Saudi Arabia have tipped the oil markets into surplus in order to exert enormous pressure on Russia in particular. Interesting report came out of all Africa, Nigeria looking towards Russia. The Memorandum on Interaction and Cooperation, which Nigerian government officials signed with their counterparts from the Russian Federation, should mark a turning point in efforts to confront internal security challenges, which the international community, at the instance of the United States of America, refused to pay any attention. Russian Security Council Secretary Mr. Nikolai Patrushev announced the signing in Moscow, where he met with the National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki. The significance of the event could be more appreciated against the backdrop of the termination of US training of Nigerian soldiers on counterinsurgency tactics at Nigeria's insistence. Nigeria has in the past 2 years endured the US's increasingly unfriendly gestures. Hitherto, our most important Western ally, America, threatened to withhold certain category of financial aids to Nigeria, including HIV/AIDS, over the decision of Nigerians to pass the law against homosexuality, a cultural and religious taboo in Nigeria and Africa. US asked its friends to join condemnation and application of certain sanctions against Nigeria over the law. It was as if Nigerians decided what laws the US Congress passes, or as if American laws have any consideration for non-Americans. The US did more. It terminated purchase of Nigeria's crude oil on the development of new technologies to exploit shale oil. The most recent act of unfriendliness by the US towards Nigeria was its outright refusal to sell critical equipment for the fight against terrorists, ravaging the country from Nigeria's northeast. After endless excuses for not making the sale, it finally hinged US grouse on alleged human rights abuses by Nigerian troops. Human rights records of American troops are not exactly sparkling. America has not only frustrated Nigeria's efforts to purchase arms and ammunition through informal sources, its media have been very eager to portray our country and our troops in poor light, buoying the courage of the terrorists. Its strident criticisms of Nigeria increases with every move Nigeria makes to tackle her challenges. And my conclusions are that this is very interesting. I don't think it's necessarily the most sensible thing for Nigeria to do. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 7.7389% year-to-date, 19-week highs, all about Lagarde and calling in the IMF. Coming to Kenya, Kenya in the International Court, one gone, another to go, says The Economist. Messrs Kenyatta, a Kikuyu, and Ruto, a Kalenjin, were on opposing sides in 2007, but formed an alliance ahead of the vote in 2013. They bolstered their campaign by painting the ICC as a tool of the West, and it worked brilliantly at the election, and themselves as victims of a nefarious neo-colonial plot. Since winning the election together, they have relentlessly tried to rubbish the court. According to The Economist, it was an alliance of pure pragmatism. Now that Mr. Kenyatta is off the hook, there are concerns that the ruling coalition may not hold. Since there is a chance Mr. Ruto may yet be convicted, the Kikuyu and Kalenjin communities in the Rift Valley, where some of the worst violence took place in early 2008, have enjoyed a fragile accommodation with each other as their leaders have been running the country together. But if Mr. Ruto were to be forced out of office as a result of an ICC verdict against him, ethnic tension could boil over again. My point with Ruto is I think the case is far more robust against the Deputy President. There is a school of thought that if the Deputy President goes, he can be replaced by Gideon Moore. And I'm not so sure, because I think the Deputy President is a far more powerful political creature, and I'm not sure you can decapitate him and just replace him with Gideon. In global terms, Mr. Kenyatta may now re-engage more warmly with Western governments, particularly the American and British ones, which regard Nairobi as a counter-terrorist hub, yet have felt awkward cooperating with Kenya because of the ICC's case against its president. I am certainly looking forward to being in Diani for Christmas and through New Year, and put up a photograph I took exactly a year ago. Kenya sees growth accelerating on infrastructure investments. The economy may expand 6.1% in the fiscal year that ends on June 30, 2015. This is Jeffrey Mwao at the Treasury. The rate is forecast to increase to 7% in 2015-2016 and 7.3% the year after. He said, "We expect strong growth mainly because of the investments we are making in infrastructure. The standard gauge railway alone will make a significant contribution to the economy." Kenya sold $2.75 billion of Eurobonds this year to help fund the spending. The initial phase of the $3.8 billion standard gauge railway project, 90% financed by the Export-Import Bank of China, will run from Kenya's port of Mombasa to Nairobi. The link will be extended to bordering Uganda, landlocked states of Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan. But Mao correctly says insecurity that has affected tourism is expected to continue being a risk in the medium term. I think is correct. Fred Matiang'i, who's the Minister of Information, denied that there are police death squads. This is an Al Jazeera inside story. Have a look at it. He put forward quite a good defense given the circumstances and the weight of evidence. Kenya's Information Minister denied the existence of death squads. Officers have confessed on this Al Jazeera film to being behind hundreds of extrajudicial killings a year, approximately 500. If you haven't seen it, that link is there as well. My concern remains that what appear like uncorrelated spikes and paroxysms of violence conflate, become more broad-based and amplify, and I said that in September 2012. Save the Elephant said in its report that the wholesale price of raw tusks has tripled since 2010. Retail prices of ivory have increased by 13 times between 2002 and 2014 in Beijing shops. Animal conservationists say higher demand for ivory is fueling the elephant killings by poachers across Africa. Save the Elephant said earlier this year that 100,000 elephants were killed in Africa between 2010 and 2012. Every metric on the ivory trade has exploded upwards in recent years. The prices of raw and worked ivory in China, number of licensed carving factories, retail outlets, both illegal and legal, items on sale, all have shot up. Meanwhile, the weight of ivory seized and number of elephants being killed in Africa have also increased. I'll put up that photograph I took on the 1st of September 2013 of the elephants in the Amboseli. I urge you to have a look at this wonderful documentary about the elephants of Kilimanjaro, and you will see during that documentary that elephants mourn their dead just as we do. They actually caress the bones of the departed and never forget. That link is under Kilimanjaro Elephants documentary. I'll also put up that photograph I like of elephants crossing the Awase-Nyiro River in the Samburu. Take you back to the piece I wrote over the weekend, which was about a number of things, but saying that insecurity remains our Achilles heel. Kenya shilling is at 90.50. Nairobi All-Shares snapped a 3-session winning streak when it set a record high each session. It remains up 22.1% this year, but it edged 0.41% lower yesterday. NSE 20 is up 5.0142% year to date. The move higher in the All Share has been boosted by the performance of Safaricom and EAPL. They've been the key precipitators of that bull move. Once again, thank you for stopping by. We have another Mindspeak on the 20th with Aaron Rambui, the jazz fusion musician who's brilliant. Again, I thank you for stopping by.